All right, this is my final presentation by MJ LaFond. Static class variables and non-static class variables. You can see that non-static class variables have to create an instance of a variable before it can be used. You can see this in the examples. It shows that you can call the game class and create an object of it. It then calls the method within the class. The game class needs to be imported for this to work. With static variables, you do not need to create an instance of the object. You can see in the example that after the game class is imported, you only need to use the variable that has been created to call the method. This right here is creating a two-dimensional array. It is started by creating the location with two square brackets. It is used to create the two-dimensional array by using for loops. It is then assigned locations with two square brackets, which then allows you to set certain things on the create array map. Array lists. We didn't really use array lists in our program, but we did set it up in the player class. An array list is used to make lists of things. It can be manipulated like a regular array. It can add or take away the elements that are in the array. This can be especially helpful when you're creating something like a class list. Some members of the class may leave and some may move in, but in an array list over an array, you are able to have the flexibility to have all of your students in one array. Enums. I couldn't fit the whole of the enum in the image, but this is the example of an enum. Enums are special in a way that you can have a lot of information for one item without having to create multiple classes or methods for them. For example, in the top item, bow and arrow, there's an item type, the item name, the adjustments, the positive description, and the negative description. These then create getters, allowing you to use each element elsewhere as needed. For our program, we used them on the map. We were able to assign the value to each place on the map. Having the math.random, we were able to assign adjustments to the wheat and storage according to what was randomly chosen. The positive and negative description is correlated to whether the number was negative or positive, and the correct statement would be executed depending on the number. A little more about enums. Here is where the enum is called and executed. You can see where the code is executed and assigned to the item on the map. You can then see in the bottom example the code that executes all the moving parts. It calls all of the pieces within the enum. It loops through the map, and for each assigned location, it pulls the negative or positive description from the enum, as well as the value, and displays it to the user. So here we go, a little more in-depth in arrays. As previously shown, items can be stored within an array. I'm going to show a little more detail here how the array actually works within the two-dimensional array that we created. You can see that at 1, that the location elements are created. At 2, the item elements are created. Each are in a different class. At 3, you can see the creating of the array. The location array class is created. It then creates an instance of the object, assigning it to locations. It then begins the 2 for loops to create each location on the map. A new object instance is created and is set to location. It is then used to assign variables from the location class as shown in number 1. They are called from their setters that we are created in that class. It sets the row, column, and a Boolean as to whether it has been visited or not through an array object that is then set to location so that the row, column, and is visited is set and assigned to each location. At number 4, you can see the location is used to call the items within the item class. Above the code, there's a statement that creates an object to be able to access the code that uses the setter for this as well. Since setters have strings and items declared within the brackets, those are now set to each array location on the map. These are now set values, though. They cannot be manipulated through the program because they are not array lists. They can only be changed when manually go in and change the element you wish to change. Now on to runtime errors. Throwing and catching runtime errors are very beneficial to the game. Without them, when an error occurred, you get a scare list of red words that you don't understand, and it terminated the program. By catching and throwing these exceptions, you are able to show a much less overwhelming statement, and they can continue to use the program. In this example, we created a game control exception class elsewhere in the program that allows you to throw and catch exceptions from the method that you created. You can see that at the top with the feed people method created, it is used to catch an error that is being created like the statement near the bottom that says if the bushels to feed is less than or equal to 0, it then throws an exception that says you need to enter a positive number. This is much more professional and calmer way of saying to the user that something went wrong. Character stream versus byte stream. Character streams are used mainly to read and write characters from the user's input. Byte streams are used to read and write binary numbers. In the first example, the buffer reader is buffering the data that is that is input as, and it is read and is writing the character data. It then creates a new input stream reader that collects the data that is being written by the user. This translates the code from a byte stream to a character stream so the program can use it as that and read it that way. The byte stream example, you can see the use of the object output stream. This is used with the file output stream is used to filter and transform byte data. By doing this, we're able to receive data that is being input by the user and store it in bytes so that it saves the game so that it can be accessed the next time they want to use it. I'm now going to demonstrate my program. Let me pull it up here. So this is how our program works. It begins with the ASCII banner and asks what your name is. You can then start a new game or load a saved game. Since we have not loaded any right now, we're going to start a new one. It begins by showing you the statistics of all of the year, people starved, moved to city, current population, acres owned, wheat per acre, wheat in storage, amount of tithes, and eaten by rats. Since this is year one, so the statistics, it just shows you really how much everything is. It also gives a description of the city of Erin. By pressing 1, you can see our map that was created by our two-dimensional array. It starts you off in the ruler's court and gives you a little bit of information as to what's in the ruler's court. If you press 2, we can move to a new location. You enter the row and enter the column. As you can see, the stars are now under 4.3, where it says VG, which is the village. It then gives you a short description. It also executes our enum. It says you found an ox. The ox is a dance-off with you. He loses. Wheat is added to the storehouse, and it gives you the adjustment as well as how much wheat there is in storage. If we make another move to, let's say, 1-1, at the top you can see where we were now has 2 arrows pointing to VG, and the stars are replaced to where we are. It gives a description as well as the items the item that you found within that place on the map. It changes every year according to what it is. It shows you how much wheat is now in storage. You can see that we can buy or sell land. It shows you the statistics before. That way you can see what they are. I can sell land. I've got 3,012 in wheat in storage, 1,000 acres, and my return per acre is 2. So let's say I want to sell 100 land. It shows the statistics for all of that as to how much you sold, how much you now have wheat in storage. You can also buy land, but I also want to show if you enter a number other than anything other than number, it gives you it says invalid input. It tells you that you need to enter something that is valid. So go ahead and press 1, and we will buy, say, 20. It then shows the statistics again of how much everything is. You can press Q, which brings you back to the game menu. 4 will show you the storehouse and the statistics. You can see your current resources, how many acres of land, the wheat in storage, and the wheat per acre. You can also see your statistics, which is a lot of it, that repeats a lot during the game, so you can keep track of all of those things. Press Q, you go back to the main menu, and again, if you press something other than a number, it says invalid input. That's pretty much everywhere throughout the game. Our reports menu, you can see all of the, oh, sorry, I pressed the wrong one. The reports is number 5. The reports menu, each of these is actually a different report. We probably should go in and change that, but each one is, there were 3 people in our group, and each is our initials, just to show which report that we did. The first report is the weapons list. You can see the name and the description. It asks if you'd like to save this report. You can press yes. And then you enter the file name like weapon.txt. That then saves, it says your report was properly saved. You can then see that within the folder that is within the game, which I can show you right here. Let me pull it up. So it saves that document within that so that you can come and you can access it later. It shows it. Let me share that part of the screen there. Google Hangouts is sometimes complicated. You can see that right. Sorry, it wasn't letting me share that. Right here, the weapons.txt document was saved, and there it is successfully saved. We go back here, we can look at another report. This is the animals. It will ask you whether you want to save it or not. I'm going to say no for this one. It then shows the tool list as to all of that. I'm going to not save this one since we already saved one. You can then click to go back to the game menu. I'm going to do end of year. So end of year is what you want to do at the end of the year. Each of these options you have to do before you can continue. For example, if you press end year, it will say you need to feed the people. So again, it tells you your population, your wheat and storage, how many bushels to feed a person. So I'm going to go in and do 2,000 to feed all of my people. Tells, again, the statistics, how many people starved, how much wheat and storage, what your population is. Again, to show, if I press 4, it then says you need to plant acres. So I'm going to go in and plant acres. It shows, again, wheat and storage, all of that stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and plant 400 acres. The statistics so that throughout the game you don't get lost or you have to go back to something. It's all right in front of you. And again, to show, it says you need to enter how many tithes you would like to pay. So if you enter the tithes you'd wish to pay, it says how much wheat and storage, and for each tithe you get a bonus. If it's above 12%, your per acre increases. So I'm just going to say, I don't know the calculation for 12%, so we'll just put a random number in, like 300. And then it says how the percentage of increase in your tithes, which I was above 7%. So I added some bushels to my weight of storage. It also shows how many rats ate the bushels of wheat, and it goes to show you how much wheat is in storage. I then end the year. It shows that it's year 2. It tells you at the top how many people moved to the city, what your population is, and all of that. You can then go back to the main menu. You can save the game. Enter file path, we'll do save.txt. And that says your game is saved. I just want to show the help menu before I go out and load the game. You can do the history of the city of Erin. It shows all of the history of that. You can see what the goal of the game is. You can see how to make a move. And you can see we're still working on how to play the game, the starting resources, as well as the tool bonus adjustments. So it shows all of that. So we're going to go ahead and quit out of the game. And then we're going to load a saved, and I guess if you press 3, it takes you to the help menu, which we're just at. We're going to load a saved game. So save.txt. And it brings you back. See how it shows all the same statistics, all of this and that. If you view the map, you can see all the places that we were, all of that kind of stuff. So it saves everything for you, and it's very helpful. So I hope you like our game. You can quit again to go out of it, and that's how the game is played. Thanks for watching.